I'm poet and writer Kaye Spivey, and today I wanted to jump in and steal my way into the Poetrytube Newbie Tag, which was originally created by Stripped Cover Lit. I've been doing some poetry on YouTube for a while, and there isn't a huge community, and you've been very hard to find, but this tag is starting to enlighten me to some new people, so I was hoping to find some more people who are interested in poetry, and more poets, more people who like talking about poetry craft and the poetry industry. Question number 1, do you read and write poetry, or do you just read it? I read and write poetry. I have 2 poetry collections published so far. I was just recently published in Dual Coast magazine, which was very cool, and I read a ton of poetry. My poetry shelf, I have some new ones, new and Sexton right now. I think I have some poetry in the other room. I did an entire poetry collection video that you can check out if you are interested. But yeah, oh, I read it. Oh yeah, and I write it. Number 2, who is your favorite poet? Recently, I just really love Mary K. I'm just a really big fan. But I also recently read, oh, what did I read? I recently read Danez Smith's collection, and I'm a fan of them now. But Mary K, oh, her collection like hit me really hard. I've also enjoyed Matthew Dickman quite a bit. Who else am I huge on? Oh, I love Rita Dove. Oh, we're gonna go with Mary K. I'm only allowed to say 1. Okay, here we go. Next question, number 3. What is one question you would ask your favorite poet? I would just cry. If I saw her, I would be a mess. I could not speak to Mary K. I'd want to ask, what was your path to where you are now? How did you step up from somebody just going through life into being this prominent poet? Like what was this trajectory? What did you do? What is your favorite poem? It's the poem Hand Me Down, and it just struck me. So I'm gonna really poorly read Mary K's Hand Me Downs. It's a little long, so bear with me. It's poetry time. Hand Me Downs. You have taken to wearing around your father's hand-me-down anger. I wish that you wouldn't. It's a few sizes too big, and everyone can see it doesn't fit you, hangs loose in all the wrong places, even if it doesn't match your skin color. You think you'll grow into it, that your arms will beef up after all the fighting, and it will sit on your shoulders if only you pin it in the right places with well-placed conviction. The bathroom mirror tells you you look good. Your fists look a lot more justified. When you dig your hands into the pockets, you find stories he left there for you to hand out to the other boys like car bombs. On days when everything else is slipping through your fingers, you can wrap yourself inside of this anger. This will keep you warm at night, help you drift off to sleep, with the certainty that no matter what happens, it will still be there when you wake up. The longer you wear it, the better it fits, until some of those stories are your own. The holes in the sleeves are from the bullets you dodged yourself. When it rips, snags on a barbed wire fence, or someone else's family, don't worry. Your mother and your sister will mend it, patch holes, sew the tears, replace a button or 2. They will help you back into it and tell you how proud they are of you, how good it looks on you, the same way it looked on your dad and your granddad too, and on his father before him, and on his father before him. But back then it was only sand, until someone drew a line, someone built a wall, someone threw a stone, and the crack in the skull that it hit fractured perfectly like twigs on the branches of a family tree, so someone threw a stone back. And each fracture, each tiny break, wound itself together into thread. The thread pulled itself around him, your great somebody. And on the other side of the wall they were knitting just as fast, and theirs fit them just as well, only in a slightly different shade. So I'm asking, when the time comes, who is it going to be the first to put down the needle and thread? Who is going to be the first to remember that their grandfather suffered just as many broken windows, broken hearts, broken bones, and the first time you come down to dinner, your son is sitting at the dining room table wearing your hatred on his shoulders? Who is going to be the first to tell him that it's finally time to take it off? That poem like floors me every single time I read it. Oh man. What is your favorite poem to read aloud? I really like one by, oh, what is his name? Here we go. William Matthews' Inspiration. Rumpled, torpid, bored. Too tasteful to rhyme lethargy with laundry, or too lazy. I'll not spend my afternoons at the desk, cunningly weaving subjunctives and lithe skeins of barbed colloquial wire. Today, I loathe poetry. I hate the clotted dicty poems of the great modernists, disdainful of their truant audience. And I hate also proletarian poetry with its dutiful rancours and sing-along certainties. I hate poetry readings and the dreaded verb to share. Let me share this knife with your throat, suggests Mac. Today I am a gnarl. A knot. A burl. I'm furled in on myself and won't be opened. I am the bad mood if you try to cheer me out of, I'll smack you. Impasse is where I escape from. It takes a deep belief in one's own ignorance. It takes, I tell you, desperate measures. Number 6, who is on your Mount Rushmore of poetry? Oh my gosh. Okay, you mean like the people who some random person decided to carve onto a cliff face to supposedly represent something, but actually it should have been something else. Are you saying I need to choose 4 white people? If I could choose 4 poets that were, like, instrumental to me appreciating poetry, I suppose, I think Edgar Allan Poe is definitely way up there. That was an early influence for me. I think Rita Dove kind of changed the way I looked at poetry. Billy Collins was pretty big, and I got to see him speak in person, which was amazing. And then one more. Have you heard of the poet called I? That was one. First time I read kind of sexy poetry. It was I. The reason I love poetry so much is I had a great teacher in high school, Miss Barron, who really pushed it. And she had this huge collection of poetry, and we were supposed to read at least 1 poem every day in the creative writing class, or it might have been the English class, it might have been both classes. She was big on having us read poetry. And we had to write something we thought about it for each of them, but I'm pretty sure that was the first time I'd read anything sexy, and it was in my high school class, and yeah, I'm pretty sure the poet was I. Number 7, what is your favorite poetry collection? No matter the wreckage is big. Also, Matthew Dickman's All-American Poem is one that I can reread that at any point. I love that collection. Yeah, I'll go between those 2. I'm just really big, but those are 2 that I could reread the entire collection again, which is pretty big for a poetry collection where usually there's like the favorites and you go digging back in for your favorites. Number 8. Rhyming. Talk about it, yes or no? Not anymore? When people rhyme well in English, it is astounding. It is one of the things that makes rap incredible, is when people use rhyme and know how to use it and manipulate it, and what an off rhyme is and where the rhymes should be coming from slantwise in the poem. It can be done in a way that is astounding. Some people have a talent for rhyme and it is beautiful, and in rap you can hear it when it's done so well and you're just like, damn, they nailed that. But in poetry, one of the biggest problems with rhyme is if there is a hard rhyme. It's the same problem with rap, actually. Same problem. We are one and the same. If there is a hard rhyme on the end of the line for the entirety of the poem, it's awful. I can't handle it. It doesn't just sound childish, it just sounds bad, and it starts to be really annoying. A lot of rhyme comes from other forms of poetry. A lot of other forms of poetry came from places like Italy, where like pretty much all the words rhyme together. Everything's ending in an O or an A. You got lots of things to rhyme. English doesn't have as much that rhymes with itself, so you cannot just line up your rhymes on the end of the line and have them all be hard rhymes. It's annoying to read. That's what I have to say about it. It gets really annoying to read. And that said, I have read it done well, but you can't do a whole collection of that, please. Oh my gosh. Rhyming collections can be good. Rhyming poetry can be good. It's one of those things you gotta have a skill for. It can be done so poorly that it is impossible to read. Number 9, barring free verse, what is your favorite poetic form? I like the sestina. I like the challenge of taking the words and making it not suck. Because in the sestina, you take the last words from the first stanza, and then in a very specific order, those last words have to end on certain lines in the rest of the stanzas. It's a very long poem, it's a big challenge, And it can really sound terrible because it's very hard to do. But when done well, I love the Sistina. I love the challenge of writing it. Humor in poetry or no? Time and a place. No, I think funny poetry is great. Funny poetry is often how people get into poetry. It's more fun to have fun when you're reading than to just be sad. There are some that are annoying, like the haiku that's like, sometimes haiku don't make sense. Refrigerator. That's annoying. That's not funny. I mean, haiku is a very specific form, and we already don't do it justice. And that's not even a haiku, because haiku have very specific rules to them, and all that does is it's just a poem that does 575 syllables. So, humor in poetry, yes. Snark in poetry, go fuck yourself. Because poetry already gets enough of a bad rap, and that's just rude. Number 11, what elements do you think contribute to the best poetry? Metaphor and lyricism. Lyricism? Lyricalness? Having an ear for spoken word. Following sentence structure, having an understanding of sentence structure, I feel like is very important. Using metaphor. That's one of the things that poetry does well. Using language in a way that is beautiful and unexpected is poetry's strength. So for tagging people, I don't know a ton of people who also write poetry, but if you do and I don't know about you, please consider yourself tagged. But I want to specifically tag Mary K Gowdy, because I know that you're into poetry. You're tagged. Anyone else who I think of that I realize suddenly at the end, I'll put all my tags in the description down below. But yeah, that's the Poetrytube Newbie Tag. I think we need to be like Poettube rather than Poetrytube, though. Poetrytube is hard to say, for me at least. Anyway, I'm going to be following this tag to find a whole bunch of new poets to follow, so I'm very excited about that. Leave a comment down below if you also do the tag, because I'd like to watch your videos. That's all for me. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully that taught you something. I'll also link a playlist of my other poetry related videos up above, and hopefully be finding some more poets on YouTube. Yes! Okay, that's all from me then. Good luck to all of us. Bye!